He was probably 18. He said, Mom, I'm gonna be a rapper.
He changed his name to Jug Money.
Every show we had, it was packed out. Everybody come to see him.
We got reported that there were 2 gunshot victims that had arrived at the hospital.
I don't know anything. It's absolute chaos.
He has a lot of fans, so folks are flooding the parking lot.
The day of the incident, there was another shooting.
He wanted to go get some revenge.
I'll be ready to hop on the car. Go home.
He looks very similar. The dreadlocks, the stature, all that matched.
Could this have been a case of mistaken identity?
Somebody's got to beef with somebody.
I don't know nothing about that.
The town of Anderson, South Carolina, sits in the northwest corner of the state.
It's very different than it was 10 years ago. And we had a much larger violent crime problem 10 years ago than we do now.
10 years ago, if we had one shooting, we were all on our toes because we knew another one was coming, whether it be a retaliation or what have you. If we had one, you're going to have another.
Just before 10 p.m. on June 7, 2014, 911 operators get a call about a shooting in an area known as the Horseshoe.
The Horseshoe is a place down in the lower end of Anderson, the southern end. It comes in off of a side street, and they call it a horseshoe because it goes around and circles back to the initial road it came from. So deputies were already on the way to the Horseshoe, and then the hospital called us.
We got reported that there were 2 gunshot victims that had arrived at the hospital.
I'm at the ER. 2 cars just pulled up with black males who were shot multiple times.
Have you asked someone where it happened at or anything?
I don't know anything. It's absolute chaos.
Is there 2 of them, you said?
There's 2 that are shot. There's about 16 people out here all just screaming and running around.
Anderson County Emergency Services.
We are combating some crowd out here. Could you send me some city officers here to back us up, please?
Officers are dispatched to both locations. As they arrive at the hospital, one of the victims is still in the car he arrived in. A nurse attempts to help him.
The car was shaking. The lady was in there trying to give him CPR, you know. My daddy had to actually help her get him out the car and put him on a stretcher.
From the crowd, the officers learn the man is a 20-year-old local celebrity.
Brandon Willingham was an aspiring rapper, pretty well known to that, at least the local rap community. He was known as Jug Money.
He has a lot of fans. He has lots of friends, lots of supporters. Everyone wants to know what's going on. They've heard about the shooting, so folks are flooding the parking lot.
The other victim, his friend, is already inside being treated for his injuries.
Rayshawn Cowan, he's the other guy who got shot. We call him Cujo.
Rayshawn Cowan has been hit 4 times in his right shoulder, his hip, his thigh, and his buttocks. His friend Brandon Willingham has been hit once. Brandon has been hit in his abdomen.
As doctors work on the victims, local media gets a hold of the story.
Before we got in there and sat down, the news people had reported that a guy had passed away from the shooting that happened on Southside.
They had already put it on the news and Facebook that one person was dead and one person was alive.
I saw Cujo's mom and them like over on the other waiting side. Me and her were both looking at each other because we knew somebody was dead. So we're looking at each other, I guess, really like hoping, which is bad to say, but hoping that I'm not going to be the one.
Born on July 14, 1993, Brandon was the first child of April Summerall and Kelly Willingham.
The day Brandon was born is like one of the best days of my life because I had a son. And for me to sit there and witness that, because I ain't never seen nothing like that before in my life. And when I got holding my hand and looked at him, a whole lot changed. You know, I got a son. It's my son. He's named after me. Brandon Kelly Lamont Willingham. So I got me a junior named right after me.
Becoming a mom to Brandon, that day I learned what true love was when I looked into his eyes. It gave me a whole new meaning of life because of Brandon. I knew I had somebody to live for, and somebody was going to depend on me, and somebody to give me a life that was worth living.
Brandon was raised in Anderson with his sister, Brianna.
Me and my brother, Brandon, we're like twins. We're only 10 months apart, so anything he wanted to do, I wanted to do it. We were really close.
I wasn't in his life long because I went to prison. He was like 18 months when I went to jail.
My daddy got arrested when I was 4 months old. You know, he still sent Christmas gifts.
I used to talk to him and my dog. I used to talk to all of them when I was locked up.
By the time Brandon was in middle school, he had another sister, Bree Shanae. April had to spend long hours away working to support her 3 kids.
I was like a hard worker. I was a single mom for so many years until I met my husband. So when I finally met somebody who was willing to love them and me, that changed my whole life.
April and Jeremy married in 2007. Around that same time, Brandon started having trouble at school.
Brandon was such a class clown. He drew a picture of SpongeBob smoking a joint that called me at work. And so when I had to go to school, I was so pissed off at Brandon. I was like, I'm going to kill this child. And I mean, I was hot because my job was like an hour away. Then when I got there and they handed me the picture, I had to hold the laugh in because he could draw really well.
He's getting expelled, so he's going to alternative school. My mom was trying to discipline him. Now, mind you, me and my sister, we understood, we good.
I think he liked alternative school, though. I really do. He was in there for 3 years. I mean, he was like the little leader person.
In 2011, April and Jeremy welcomed twin boys.
He wasn't happy about them at first. When he found out I was having boys, I think it broke his heart because he was always my only son. But once they got here, he loved his brothers.
What his family didn't know is that Brandon had been quietly nursing a dream.
The whole music thing took me, I'll just be honest, completely by storm. One day he said, and at this point, he was probably 18, he said, Mom, I'm going to be a rapper. I said, really? I said, that's a good dream, but in the meantime, you need to get a job. And Brandon was like, no, Mom, I'm for real.
In 2012, Brandon got the chance to share his dream with his father.
When I was locked up, I did not know he could rap. I did 18 years, 9 months. When I got out of prison, he came and picked me up.
Brandon threw himself into his music. He took his childhood nickname and turned it into a name he hoped would be known around the world.
Say you go to the store and you out there selling some apples, you jugging, you getting money. It's just a slang. He used to always jugging, trying to make a little $0.25 or something when he was little, and they just called him Jug Shoes.
He just changed his name to Jug Money. Everybody was calling him Jugging. It sounded good.
He was just full force on that music, and it all happened with him and the music. In a year's time, he was doing shows, and I mean booking shows week after week after week. One Battle of Atlanta, he made the deal with his promoter and his manager. He released that CD.
I was in college when he first started rapping, so I would just come home, hear the music, going back to college and make everybody else hear it.
To say that Jug Money was an up-and-coming artist is an understatement. I mean, he was really, really on his way. He was a big deal, and he was becoming an even bigger deal.
He wanted a lot for himself and his family. And said, Pop, what kind of car you want? I was messing with him. I want a Ferrari or something like that. He said, we're going to get it one day. And that's what he believed in, so I believed in him, and Anderson believed in him, too.
On June 7th, 2014, a shooting lands Brandon and his friend Rayshawn in the emergency room at Anderson Medical Center.
News traveled very fast, so between the local newspaper, TV stations, once the shooting occurred, folks knew about it. Facebook was blowing up because of who Brandon was.
Local media reports that one of the men has died.
You've got family members from both boys' families, Brandon, Rayshawn. They're both there at the hospital, tensely waiting.
I see the corner man come out, telling us to go in his room. I went straight out the door. I ain't going in no room. I already knew.
The tragic news was that Brandon Willingham had indeed passed away.
His blood pressure plummeted because he got hit in that main aorta.
Everybody had done part and got out the cars and kind of like swarmed the outside of the hospital like a big old memorial waiting. And so when I came out, I was screaming, who did this? And what they, like, who did this? Who did this?
Detective Barton with the Anderson County Sheriff's Office arrives at the hospital where rapper Brandon Willingham, also known as Jug Money, has just succumbed to a gunshot wound to the abdomen.
There was a bunch of people at the hospital. There was a vehicle that was roped off that the victim arrived to the hospital in. The police were standing by, had that secure.
Brandon's friend was also shot, but survived.
Rayshawn Cowan has been hit 4 times in his right shoulder, his hip, his thigh, and his buttocks.
Him and Sean, they've been friends since they were kids. And Jug and Cujo, I call him Cujo, but they grew up together. You know what I'm saying? He been there. He was a good friend of Jug. Him and Jug were good friends.
I was able to interview him at the hospital. He was in a lot of pain. He was wanting to get his pain meds, but I also needed to speak with him while he had a somewhat of a clear mind.
Tell me what happened.
We were just standing out there talking about my homeboy. We were just talking about him happy.
They were there to shoot a rap video the next day. They were wanting to, get a lay of the land and see where they were going to put different props at and all this stuff. So they were in a deep conversation with each other. And he said a car pulls around the horseshoe, comes up to where they're at, and immediately gunshots start sounding off.
Who started shooting?
I can say some car came from the bottom of the road.
What did the car look like?
A great car. I can't see no kind of car.
Small car, big car?
Small.
Gray, small car?
Yes,
Did you recognize anybody in it?
Yes, sir.
Jug Money? Does he got a beef with anybody?
No, sir. You local rap.
Okay, any idea who shot you?
No, sir, not whatsoever.
Somebody's got a beef with somebody.
Yeah, I can say that. Yes, sir. I know they do.
I think he was being honest with me. He didn't know who the shooters were.
Investigators learned that a third man drove Brandon and Rayshawn to the hospital.
I spoke with the police officers that were on scene there about the vehicle, got all that settled about, having the vehicle towed and all that. Got a name of the driver who drove them to the hospital, who was no longer on scene. He had apparently drove them to the hospital and left on foot. But I did get a phone number for him, so I was able to call him. He didn't have a whole lot of information either, didn't know who these folks were that shot at him.
Following the interview, Detective Barton heads to the crime scene.
So as I'm pulling up, obviously there's a lot of cops out there. The scene's secured, it's blocked off, crime scene tape everywhere. So I get out and I got another detective on scene. He gives me a rundown of what he's got, and there's shell casings in the roadway, there's blood.
We recovered 4 9mm shell casings. So we knew we were looking for a 9mm gun. Most of the people who were there, from my understanding, what I was told when I arrived, either left or maybe they were in a house and not willing to come out.
There was a gentleman that was willing to talk with us on scene that gave us information.
Orlandis Hamilton was the only one who stuck around to talk to us. He was there when it happened, and that him and Brandon Willingham seemed to have a close relationship. He was upset about it, and I thought he was genuine in wanting to help.
He said he saw a silver car. He said that there were 3 gentlemen, 3 black males in the vehicle. And he said that one of them in the front seat passenger was hanging a gun out the window and shooting as they were coming down Oliver Street.
He did not recognize or did not know who they were. He said they all had their hats pulled over their faces.
Aside from a vague description of the car, investigators leave the scene with no leads. They consider whether Brandon and Rayshawn were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
There's a lot of drugs run down there, so, you know, when the shooting first came out, that was the first thing that popped in my mind was a typical drive-by. We've had many a drive-by down there.
Or did Brandon's simmering fame have something to do with his death?
Did a business deal go bad? Did he treat somebody wrong?
In the rap world, beefs arise, you know, they do diss tracks on each other and then people get mad about that. You know, we really had to look and see if he had any other problems with another rapper, local or otherwise. You know, Atlanta's not that far from here, so we've had times where people come up from Atlanta and do drive-by shootings here. So that was something we had to explore. All these things are possibilities.
As investigators in Anderson, South Carolina dig into a double shooting that left 1 man dead, they take a closer look at the victim, Brandon Jug Money Willingham.
We have to keep an open mind about all the possibilities of why this specific person was killed. We usually do a deep dive into that person. We call it victimology. He was known as Jug Money. My understanding is he was getting pretty close to making it big. And so that was, of course, something that we had to look into.
Brandon was a well-known rapper in the area. It could be someone he had a beef with.
Brandon's family insists he had no enemies.
He did not have no beef with people, not that I knew of. I never seen him out fight nowhere, fight somebody called him, come on, fight one fight. Nah, I never seen him do that. He stayed in the studio too much.
In fact, they say Brandon was a role model to those who were on the wrong side of the law.
He opened up doors and let them know, like, you can make it, especially when it comes to doing something other than illegal stuff, fighting, gang banging, drugs, anything like that.
Investigators find nothing in Brandon's life that points to a suspect. So they take a different approach.
The day of the incident that Brandon Willingham was killed, earlier in that day, there was another shooting that happened nearby at a gas station.
It was a rough gas station. I mean, I've probably made 30 arrests there myself.
And we started digging into that one to see if it may be related to this one, because typically these shootings all intertwine somehow. During that investigation, we determined that there was a subject who checked into the hospital from a gunshot wound that morning. The name that checked in was Rores Patterson.
But when detectives check security video from the gas station, they recognize the victim as someone else.
The person who checked in was not Rores Patterson. We were able to pull video and see that, and we determined that the person that checked in was actually Rores' brother, Anthony Patterson, who goes by the street name of D. So that starts throwing up red flags. Why is, Rores, name being used, but it's not Rores?
A little digging gives them an answer.
We determined Anthony had a warrant on him, and he was concerned they were going to call the cops to the hospital. So that's why he used his brother's name, his brother being Rores Patterson.
No arrests had been made, but word on the street was that the shooting was the result of beef between Anthony and another man.
He goes by the street name Hitman. He's well known to us. They had gotten into an altercation. And Anthony was shot by Hitman. That case was never reported because Anthony doesn't want to report anything to the cops. And obviously, Hitman is not going to report it. We have not approached Anthony or anybody because we didn't have anything other than just words on the streets, and obviously we want some kind of evidence. I only got one shot to interview him, so I want to make sure I got my ducks in a row when I do.
But investigators don't see an obvious link between the gas station shooting and Brandon's death. In the meantime, the tip line has been ringing off the hook.
So with this being a local rapper and the following he had, there's obviously a lot of people knew about this, and so as any crime, you're getting a lot of tips. So we had tips come in that we were immediately able to say, no, that's not the case, and it was easy to disprove it. You had other tips come in with very limited information that you couldn't even act on. Each tip that came in, we looked at and was able to determine that was not our person.
Then, 2 days after the shooting, a tip comes in from Brandon's father.
He was telling us that he had met with a subject by the name of David Bennett, and that David Bennett had information on the case and claimed that he was present when it happened.
I did an interview with him. It was brief. He was still obviously very upset about his son's death, but he wanted to pass along this information.
Kelly tells Detective Hill about his conversation with David.
They met at a little rundown restaurant where David proceeded to tell him all the details.
He told me everything that happened. Say the boy, his brother had got shot or something, so he wanted to go get some revenge.
The shooter was identified as Roy Rez Patterson. He thought he was seeking payback for someone that shot his brother earlier the same day.
David is in the back seat of the car, and that Rorez was the shooter, and there was another subject driving the car.
Dude reached out the window and said he ain't even look, just reached out the window and started shooting. He ain't even look at nobody, just started shooting out the window. Shot my son one time, shot Cujo 4 times.
My next big thing was I got to find David.
We found his last known address in our system, and we went to that house. It turns out that was his grandparents' house. Nobody knew where David Bennett was. Wouldn't give us any information. I felt like he was being a little, I felt like Mr. Bennett's grandfather was withholding some information. I thought he knew more than he was telling us.
David Bennett works at McDonald's, so I go to McDonald's. David hadn't shown up for work all week, which is not uncommon. When you're involved in a shooting, you're concerned about retaliation, so you try to lay low.
The next day, Detective Barton gets a phone call.
I was driving down the road when he called me, and I couldn't believe it. Because we never get calls like this. So I pulled over on the side of the road, and he and I talked for a little while, and he told me that he was in New York. He wouldn't come back. He said he's, concerned with retaliation. He's not coming back to Anderson. But he did agree to meet with me if I could fly to New York.
South Carolina detectives get their first big break in the killing of rapper Jug Money when witness David Bennett agrees to talk to them. 2 investigators fly to New York, where they interview 24-year-old David Bennett in a hotel room.
It's really unorthodox to do anything like that, but he didn't want to meet me at the police station. He's fearing he's going to jail. I'm not there to lock him up. I'm there to try to get information.
All right, thank you. All right, we're recording it right there on video, and I'm recording right here on the audio recorder. All right, well, man. First off, like I said, right there, and I appreciate you coming up, talking with me. You here on your own free will, right? I told you you wasn't under arrest or nothing like that. When we get down here, you leaving, and we going a different way, right? Obviously we're working on the murder that happened down in Anderson County, correct? Yeah. All right, and if you don't want to talk to me, you ain't got to talk to me, sure. It's up to you, all right? I'm just going to get this over. Okay.
David tells the detective that he was at a party with his friend Terrence West the night Brandon was shot.
David and Terrence are just friends. Terrence is actually Royres's uncle.
Royres and his brother D was over there. They was drinking, playing cards, whatever.
Royres and his brother were discussing the shooting that happened earlier that day when Anthony took a bullet in the leg.
They was fighting at the store, and Hitman pulled his gun out and shot him.
So when they're at the party, David wants to go buy drugs. So he and Terrence are going to go buy drugs.
It was going on 11 o'clock. And she was like, man, let's go get some more weed real quick.
As they get to the car, Royres is already at the car and jumps in.
They piled into Terrence's car, a silver Mitsubishi Mirage. David got in the back seat.
When they pull onto the horseshoe, they come around to the other end. And as they're approaching the end, there's 4 or 5 guys on the street corner.
I'll get ready to hop on the car and ask somebody for the weed.
Royres Patterson just opened up fire, and then Royres said, drive, drive, drive.
David says he doesn't know what's happening. He jumps back in the car, and Royres is telling Terrence to go.
He told me, gee, we ain't see nothing, we don't know nothing.
Did he say why he shot at him?
He said, wow.
What did you think it was?
I thought it was over his brother getting shot, but like I said, I don't even know why.
When they got back to the party, Royres approached his brother.
He told D, I got the man that shot you. He jumping around, I got him, dog.
But based on what investigators know, it was Hitman who shot Anthony, not Brandon.
He looks very similar to Brandon. The dreadlocks, the stature, all that matched. Especially you're driving through at night. It's not a well-lit area.
Could this have been a case of mistaken identity? Is it the case that Royres Patterson was seeking payback for the person he thought shot his brother?
David Bennett says he and Terrence immediately leave. They go back to Terrence's apartment and hang out all night long, watching the news for what's going on, and that's when they start realizing someone was killed.
Police put together a photo array.
So we're on the phone back with detectives in Anderson, trying to get lineups emailed to me. Once we get those, I show them to him. He picks out Royres Patterson as who he only really knew by Royres. And D, he picks out Anthony Patterson, and he only knew him by D, as Royres' brother. And then he also picked out a photo lineup of Terrence West, who the driver was. The first thing I want to do is find Terrence West. So I want to find Royres too, but Royres being the shooter, I want to save him for last because I want everything I can get before I get to Royres.
When they get back to South Carolina, detectives find that rumors of Royres' involvement have arrived ahead of them. Tension is at a boiling point.
People who knew Brandon Willingham, these people cared about him. They really wanted payback for what happened to Brandon.
The retaliation culture around here is serious. I mean, the people really stand on business when it comes to the people that they love.
Someone shot up the home where Royres and his brother had been on the night of the shooting.
There had been a barbecue going on out there. Somebody easily could have been killed. This is a dangerous, dangerous situation. Not long after that, Royres' vehicle at his girlfriend's house was set on fire.
So we saw this uptick in violence of people trying to flush out the killer.
But Royres is staying out of sight.
So I had probable cause to sign warrants. I've already been to Royres' house at East Market Street. Nobody's coming to the door for me over there. Terrence West, on the other hand, needs a job, so he went on to work. We located Terrence at the manufacturing facility. We told him he was under arrest. I transport Terrence myself back to the office. We have an interview room set up where I wanted to take him in there and speak with him. I read him his Miranda rights, and then I just asked him what happened. He told me the story. The story he gave was almost to the detail of what David Bennett's story was.
Police charged Terrence West with accessory after the fact of murder and attempted murder.
His actions after the shooting is what got him charged. He had multiple opportunities to step forward and tell us what happened.
The same day that Terrence is arrested, also the day of Brandon's funeral, Royrez Patterson turns himself in.
Royrez apparently can't take the heat. He was seeking payback for who he thought shot his brother, but the streets and the fans of Brandon were also seeking their own payback.
So he contacted our warrants guy, said, you know, I know I got warrants on me, I'll turn myself in. So he was there that afternoon.
"7 days after the death of Brandon Willingham, investigators finally interview his alleged killer, Royrez Patterson.
I brought him to the office, the same as any other suspect. You know, I try to build a rapport with him, go back and forth. I Mirandize him, and we start talking about this case. And from the beginning of that interview, I knew that he was not fixing to confess to this crime.
I know what happened. I've already had several people tell me, witnesses, people that were there, people that were in the car with you. Yeah. So
I don't know nothing about nothing.
Lying to me will do you no good.
I ain't lying about nothing.
He leaned back and smiled at me and said, "You got the wrong guy." When you have an attitude like that, it's going to be hard to get a confession.
Royrez says he never left the party that night.
Well, what about when you and David and Key were riding that night?
I didn't get a car with P.
Well, why are both of them saying you did?
I didn't get a car with P.
Okay.
Right.
Do you own any guns?
No, sir.
So that's the story you're sticking with?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Patterson had several days to get rid of the gun, so of course he wouldn't tell us where the gun is. And, you know, looking for a gun, especially here in the South, that's a needle in the haystack.
He claimed that we had the wrong person, and throughout the entire interview just sat and smiled at me.
You can sit there smiling all you want.
I got this crazy.
When we go to court and the judge reads out murder, I want you to smile again, okay?
I ain't smiling about no murder.
Smiling.
I ain't smiling about no murder, because I didn't murder nobody.
Well, you got a murder charge.
I didn't murder nobody.
So you can get right with it, or you can sit there with a smile on your face saying you didn't do it.
It's my words against your word. I didn't do no shit.
You can stick with that story, but every dude out there knows you did it.
Yeah, that's how the streets talk. The streets gonna talk like that, but I'm a working man.
He kept saying that he was a working man, that I got the wrong guy.
I didn't shot and kill nobody. I work for it. I got a family.
I understand you work.
Yeah, I work and I don't bother nobody.
But that don't mean you wasn't out Saturday night in that car.
But it was funny, he hadn't been to work all week, and he's not sick. So, you know, there were some pieces of his story that he told me that we could prove that he was lying.
And I got two witnesses that were in the car with you. So
I got my witness.
Who?
My family, where I was at.
He gave me names of folks that were at his party who could vouch for him to say he didn't leave all night long. So now we have to start finding those people, because if there is someone who can vouch that he was there all night long, then I've got the wrong guy, and that's the last thing I want, is the wrong guy. As much as I want justice for the family, I definitely don't want to arrest the wrong guy.
Your uncle says you did.
I didn't do it.
Okay.
That's my word against his word.
I got two people's word that were there, so that he was the one shooting.
We charged Royrez Patterson with murder and attempted murder for the attempted murder of Rashawn Cowan and the murder of Brandon Willingham.
Following the arrest, investigators follow up on Royrez's alibi by talking to the party's host.
So when he gives me these names, I start going around interviewing. Several of the names he gave me, one of them, the guy wasn't even in town. Said he was in the military in North Carolina, so wasn't even there. Another guy says, yeah, I was there, but I didn't come till after their house had been shot up, so I was not at the barbecue. Don't know if he left or not. Another name was his sister. I asked her, were you there with them all night? And she admitted, well, there was a time they could have left that I don't know about it. That right there is enough that she cannot be a good witness for Royrez if she can't physically say, I saw him all night long. Nobody could vouch for him all night long at being at that house. Anything he gave me, we were able to tear it apart.
Both David Bennett and Terrence West agreed to testify against Roy Rez at trial.
How many uncles are gonna try to convict their own nephew? So I thought that was really good. Their stories are pretty doggone similar. So I thought it was a decent case in that aspect.
But will it be enough?
We didn't have any physical evidence tying Roy S. Patterson to this case, to this murder. We had 2 witness statements, and that was it.
On April 25th, 2016, nearly 2 years after the shootings of Brandon Willingham and Rayshawn Cowan, Roy Rez Patterson goes on trial for murder and attempted murder. Brandon's family watches in court.
All I can see was an ugly monster sitting there. I cannot believe this ugly human took my beautiful child, who has so much going for him.
Everybody was so confused. We don't even know him, the guy who killed him, Roy Rez. We don't even know you to even see why you would even have a problem with a 20-year-old rapper.
According to the state, the motive is revenge. But the real tragedy is that Roy Rez killed the wrong man.
Unfortunately, Brandon was in the wrong place at the wrong time that night, there for a legitimate purpose, scouting for a music video, and it just happened to be when this group of guys rolled through. Roy S. Patterson saw Brandon Willingham, thought it was Hitman. It was dark, not a well-lit area. They looked very similar, and that's when he opened fire. I think his emotions took over. He saw the guy who shot his brother in his mind, and he was going to get him back.
Carlandis Hamilton takes the stand and describes the heartbreaking minutes after the shooting took place as he tried to help Brandon.
Carlandis was the one holding him when blood was coming out of his mouth, and he said he was slapping Brandon in the face, telling him, stay with, don't leave.
He explained, the sounds my brother were making, basically saying that my brother died right then and there.
Carlandis gives a description of the car from which the shots were fired.
Carlandis Hamilton had described the silver boxy kind of SUV. It was a Mitsubishi SUV.
He reported seeing a silver box-type vehicle drive around the horseshoe just before the shots rang out and then speed away. We determined that Terrence West was driving a silver Mitsubishi Mirage, which is a box-type vehicle, and it belonged to his girlfriend.
His testimony backs up accounts from the prosecution's 2 star witnesses.
We watched Terrence West get on the stand. David Bennett came back to South Carolina, took the stand, gave his version of the events.
They told almost the same exact story, and they both admitted to being in the car when this happened. Terrence is Roy Rez's uncle, so when your family's testifying against you, it kind of adds a little bit of credibility to that because people expect families to cover for each other.
Roy Rez does not take the stand.
The defense was with the wrong guy. That his client was nowhere involved.
In Roy Rez's defense, his attorney argued that in the car that the drive-by shooting took place, there were 16 fingerprints found, and none of them matched Roy Rez. And also, police never recovered a murder weapon. None was ever found.
After 3 days of trial, both sides rest.
And in the end, the jury found him guilty.
He has to do 35 years, day by day, no parole, no probation. Yeah, it's straight time.
They should have gave him life without parole. You took my son's life. You should not have another chance to come out either.
The people who killed my brother, I don't forgive them for what they did. I probably never would, but in my heart, I don't just hate these people. God got me just like God gonna have y'all and deal with y'all in his own way.
Brandon's fans still mourn the loss, and for his family, the pain cuts just as deep today as it did when Brandon died.
I miss him, and excuse me if I'm about to cry, but yeah, they did something to me. It really did. It crushed me. That's my only boy. And for him to do that to my son, and with my son, they do nothing to nobody, to harm nobody, Only thing he cared about was making music. And that crushed me. And I just wish he could have lived a little longer to see where his potential would have took him.
He was more than a son. Brandon was my friend. He was like my best friend. I'm so glad God gave me 20 years with him. He could have gave me none, so at least I got 20.
She was a single mother, doing everything she could.
As a single parent, you kind of rise to the occasion.
She was someone who was willing to put in that work.
She was determined to succeed.
All she needed was the right person by her side.
This is a man who's mature.
He had his own business.
He was someone that she could build a relationship with.
Until it all came undone.
The victim suffered a gunshot wound to the head.
We usually call that an execution style.
It's a very violent individual who did it.
Can the police find her killer?
There are so many frustrations.
Your chances get slimmer each passing hour.
If you don't have any evidence, then there's nowhere to go.
Or are they in for a long, cold wait?
You never know where that next piece of evidence can come from.
Lives change when guilt kicks in.
All those years, you could have picked up the...
Saturday morning in Long Beach, California, an oceanfront city of almost 500,000.
Long Beach is the best of both worlds because it's got that city vibe, but then it's got some really nice beach areas and restaurants and some great tourist spots.
It also has some spots that aren't on any tourist's itinerary.
You've got a lot of industrial area around there, but it's got this character of blue-collar, working class.
You have this underbelly, you have all these socio-economic issues.
There is a, we'll say, seedy side with gangs and drugs and violence.
And as the sun comes up that morning, it shines a harsh light on Long Beach's unsavory side.
Are you okay?
The person that was jogging outside had noticed a woman's body on the ground.
But when he moves closer, the man realizes the woman isn't okay.
Oh, God. The victim suffered a gunshot wound to the head.
The man who found her called 911. And when first responders arrived on the scene, they confirmed that she was dead.
But it's not until homicide detectives arrive on the scene that police are able to determine the dead woman's name.
She didn't have her ID on her.
We checked the missing persons cases.
And they find one in the vicinity that has just been reported.
The missing persons report matches the physical description of their victim.
The missing woman is 20-year-old Tyquisha Myers. Tyquisha Myers had grown up in Las Vegas, surrounded by a loving family.
She was very trusting. She seemed like she was always looking out for the best in people.
However, her life wasn't without challenges.
Tyquisha got pregnant at 14.
The child's father wasn't in the picture, but still, Tyquisha wanted to have the baby.
Being 14 and having a newborn baby and being a single parent, all of those were the odds kind of stacked up against her. You're focused on just trying to build friendships, build connection, learn who you are. And now you're thrust into parenthood to now begin to turn your focus onto this child. And not really knowing how to parent because she was just a child herself. That was a very challenging time for her.
But Tyquisha rose to the challenge by throwing herself fully into motherhood.
She was determined to do better and not just succumb to what she was experiencing. Because as a single parent, you kind of rise to the occasion and try to learn and do all the things so that you can succeed.
But there was still something missing.
She wanted a father figure in her son's life, someone to make their family complete.
And when her son was 6 years old, she found him, a man named Carl Mays.
Carl wished her off her feet.
The relationship moved fast.
Because it had to.
Well, I'm only going to be in town for a couple more days.
Really? Carl was only in Las Vegas for fun. He lived in Long Beach.
Got a shop out there, barbershop.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
This is a man who's mature, who's situated and has some type of foundation, who has his own business.
The Black Barbershop is a huge part of the community. You can pretty much feel the pulse of the community, and usually the head barber knows everybody or everything about what's going on.
Carl also represented a huge opportunity for Tyquisha.
He was someone that she could build a relationship with and provide a father figure for her son. So it's like a lot of hopes and dreams that she kind of all had bottled up into this package called Carl.
Maybe I can come to Long Beach and visit you sometime?
Oh, I'd like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Tyquisha made several trips to see Carl in California.
That really excited her of the possibility for what she and her son could experience in moving here to Long Beach.
We're right by the ocean. We're chilling, we're vibing.
And by the beginning of 2006, Tyquisha had made California her home.
Carl asked Tyquisha to marry him, and she said yes.
It's just like, yes, let's jump into it. She's lived with her parents for such a long time. So now she's just wanting to break free and just make her own decisions, choose whatever it is that she wants to choose and have this freedom.
She was someone with so much future ahead of her.
But now it appears that Tyquisha will never have the opportunity to embrace that future.
Police get a radio call of someone reporting that the person was lying injured on the trail from a single gunshot wound.
The detectives respond to the crime scene, and then a crime scene is established where the victim or where the body was found.
The yellow tape goes up. No one's allowed to come close so that the forensic technicians can start taking pictures.
Tyquisha had been reported missing the day before by her husband. But does that mean he's off the hook?
You have a female that's murdered and dumped on the side of the freeway.
A gunshot wound to the head means it's personal.
We were all saying it's a really angry spouse that might have done it.
"20-year-old Las Vegas native Tyquisha Myers was ready to start a new chapter in her life.
She's lived with her parents for such a long time. She's wanting to venture out and start her own family.
She and her 6-year-old son were in the process of moving to Long Beach, California.
But she wouldn't be in Long Beach alone. Just a few months earlier, she'd met and married 28-year-old Carl Mays.
Carl ran his own barbershop in Long Beach.
Seeing this as an opportunity to just have this love and acceptance and have the support of a male figure who is mature, who is established, who has a job, and who seems to be self-sufficient.
Only now, Tyquisha's new beginning has come to a violent end.
Soon after Carl reported her missing, Tyquisha was found alongside a bike path, dead from a single gunshot wound to the head.
When you have a gunshot wound to the head, usually we call that an execution-style murder.
Somebody was pissed off, or it's a very violent individual who did it.
But who was it that pulled the trigger?
Based on how this crime occurred, just the nature of it, you're gonna look for that maybe heat of passion suspect.
Leaving CSI and the coroner's team to finish processing the scene and remove the body for autopsy, the detectives decide it's time they talk to Tyquisha's husband, Carl.
The husband, the boyfriend, they're the first people you go to. Could it have been somebody else? Absolutely. But that's the first place you look.
From the scene, the detectives drive straight to Carl's barbershop.
Carl had provided his address to police when he filed the missing persons report.
May I help you?
Yes. We're looking for Carl Mays.
Yes. Y'all find Tyquisha?
I'm afraid so.
Carl appears stunned by the news that Tyquisha is dead.
I can't believe it. I mean, I was worried, but just never imagined something like this.
Sir, when's the last time you saw your wife?
Yesterday before she went out of town.
Carl explained that Tyquisha had been splitting her time between Long Beach and with her family in Vegas.
Why is that?
We were just working on some things.
What kind of things?
Married life, mostly.
After living her entire life at home, he says Tyquisha was having a hard time adjusting.
What to expect, what's expected of her, what to expect of others, all of that is something new that she possibly wasn't aware of because she was just 20 years old.
Carl said that Tyquisha had left her son with family in Vegas to come to Long Beach so that they could talk things over.
And she had dropped by the shop on her way back to Vegas.
Carl said she wanted some money that he owed her.
Did you give her the money?
Yeah, then she left. That was the last time I saw her.
Carl says he'd assumed Tyquisha had gone back to Las Vegas until he got a frantic call from her mother.
Her mama hadn't even heard from her, and nobody knew where she was, and it just didn't make any sense. So that's why I called the police.
To the detectives, Carl seems genuine, but they still need to rule him out.
Sir, do you own a gun?
No, I don't.
Do you mind if we look around a little bit?
Yeah, sure, whatever you need that helps.
He seemed more than willing to cooperate with the investigation.
With Carl's permission, detectives searched the shop, including the back room.
There's no evidence of a gun.
But they do find something interesting.
This yours?
Yeah.
There's blood on it.
He said that the blood was there because he cut himself while he was working.
It seems plausible, but detectives want to make sure.
You mind if we take it with us?
Yeah, we'd like to run some tests.
Yeah, sure.
I'll bag it and take it to the cruiser.
Then, after talking to Carl, detectives talk to the other barber who works in the shop, a man named Harris Finley.
They start by asking him about Carl and Tyquisha's relationship.
When I think of a barber in a community like Long Beach, I think about a place where people are gonna talk about their lives and talk about their stories. Maybe there's a lot of joking, but maybe there's a lot of complaining.
Their instincts are right. Carl had told Harris a lot about his marriage.
He said they hit a rough patch, but they're putting things back together.
Did he say what the problem was?
Mostly that they got married too fast.
Harris also tells them he was at the barber shop when Tyquisha came by to see Carl.
Do you know what it was about?
I think she wanted some money.
He said they went in the back and talked a while. And when they came out, Carl handed Tyquisha some cash.
Tell me when you get to Vegas.
Oh. He said she was only here for a few moments and she left, which backed up what Carl was sharing.
As a general rule, that's good evidence to rule that person out as a suspect.
The investigators were back at square one.
Detectives investigating Tyquisha Myers' murder have all but ruled out her husband, Carl Mays.
When they interviewed the barber that worked in the shop with Carl, he backed up what Carl was sharing.
So he gave her the money and she left.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what Carl had told them in his statement.
But the next morning, when detectives received the results of the autopsy, the findings indicate that the murder must have occurred soon after she left the shop.
The medical examiner places Tyquisha's time of death on the afternoon of the 14th.
To determine where she'd gone after she left the barber shop, the detectives subpoena Tyquisha's phone records.
phone evidence, and it's probably a lot better now, but in 2006, you could actually track someone by their phone.
Then, while waiting for Tyquisha's cell provider to respond to the subpoena, detectives reach out to her family in Las Vegas.
When they do, they learn that Tyquisha's mother is already in Long Beach.
After informing Tyquisha's mother that her daughter is dead, they arrange for her to come into the station and give them a statement.
First off, I want to say sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Assume you drove in from Las Vegas as soon as you realized she was missing.
No, I was already in town.
Tyquisha's mom said she and Tyquisha had been in the area for a few days prior to her disappearance.
She came back to attend a friend's funeral, but she still had issues with Carl that she had to settle.
What sort of issues?
Well, I think he owed her money.
Her statement echoes Carl's. However, Tyquisha's mom does add some new information about the day her daughter disappeared.
Tyquisha's mom dropped her off at the barbershop.
And she left with you?
No. She said she didn't know how long she would be.
She stated that Tyquisha was planning to see another friend in Long Beach after she left Carl's.
She said she would either get a ride with them or Carl would take her.
That was the last time she heard from her daughter.
Tyquisha's mother says she first realized something was wrong when Tyquisha wouldn't answer her phone.
I can just imagine trying to call and do all the checking to see what happened to her and not able to find her.
Tyquisha never answered. But the following morning, she'd gotten a hold of Carl.
She's not answering the phone?
No.
Okay, I can call the police.
To be honest, I was surprised that Carl offered.
Why is that?
Tyquisha and Carl were in this relationship where it didn't seem like it was going very well. They had some personal disputes.
Carl mentioned their issues when detectives spoke with him. But according to Tyquisha's mother, he hadn't told them the whole story.
The first time she came home after the wedding, I could tell there was trouble.
Her family says that she would show up with a lot of bruises.
They knew something was happening.
The mother wanted to put a stop to the relationship immediately.
But she says that Tyquisha denied the abuse, at least initially.
She said she fell or something. She always had an excuse.
It can be very hard for victims of domestic violence to come forth and be honest about what's happening to them. There can be a lot of embarrassment.
Eventually, Tyquisha had finally opened up and admitted the truth.
Tyquisha told her mother that Carl would sometimes lose his temper and get violent with her.
And Tyquisha's family finally convinced her to break things off, at least temporarily.
Tyquisha made the decision, from the support of her family and friends, to be able to put a pause on that relationship because she knew she deserved better.
She took her son and moved back to Las Vegas.
She made up her mind she was never going back to him.
So why'd she come back to see him then?
She just wanted the money he owed her.
She said that was supposed to be Tyquisha's last contact with Carl.
Had that final meetup cost Tyquisha her life? Or are the detectives missing something?
All you kind of have is Tyquisha's mother's word versus Carl's word.
He said she left.
And the other barber corroborated his story.
They're lying, both of them.
And according to Tyquisha's mom, she has proof.
She said that she was gonna give this to him, but she decided not to.
She had left a letter behind.
The note kind of details how hard life has been for her ever since she met Maze. One particular part details how it was a very controlling relationship.
But that wasn't all she said.
She actually indicated that she did not want to be around him and that she was happy to leave him.
She felt like she needed to escape.
The last thing that she wrote was that I was scared for my life.
Detectives investigating the murder of Tyquisha Myers have learned that she recently left her husband, Carl Mays, over emotional and physical abuse.
It's all detailed in a letter that Tyquisha's mother provided to detectives.
That note is a huge piece of evidence to paint a picture of their relationship.
And the last line of the letter all but names Carl as her killer.
Tyquisha closed the letter by stating, "I was scared for my life."
As an investigator, it really focuses your efforts into closing in on this person.
However, there's something standing between the detectives and an arrest. Carl's fellow barber, Harris Finley.
Harris told detectives that he was in the barbershop when Tyquisha dropped by.
He says that Carl gave her the money he owed her, and she left.
But now that they've read the letter she wrote, detectives aren't so sure.
Harris may have had reason to lie, too.
Carl was his employer, and so the reality is you're not going to mess up the way that you feed yourself or feed your family.
Harris could even be protecting himself.
If Carl had killed Tyquisha, maybe Harris helped get rid of the body.
There's suspicion of Carl mounting. Detectives do a little digging on Tyquisha's husband.
They're looking for previous crimes, any other history of domestic violence, restraining orders, things like that.
There's nothing in Carl's record as far as domestic violence or a restraining order. But the search does reveal something.
The year before, he was arrested for having a loaded firearm on his possession in public.
Tyquisha died from a single gunshot wound to the head.
But while the weapons charge raises detective suspicions, it's a long way from a murder charge.
The weapons charge only proved that he used to own a gun, not that he had one now. And the search of the barbershop hadn't produced any evidence of a gun either.
However, the detectives hope that one piece of evidence from the barbershop could be the breakthrough they need.
The investigators found a blanket that had blood on it.
At the time, Carl said the blood was his, but the detectives wanted to be sure.
They took it in for DNA.
The test results proved disappointing.
It came back as unconclusive.
Back in 2006, the technology just wasn't as refined as it is now.
But when detectives received Tyquisha's phone records, they further suggest that the murder did occur in the barbershop.
Cell phone records showed that was her last known location.
After that, there was no activity on Tyquisha's phone.
But the phone records alone aren't enough for an arrest.
There are so many frustrations because in your mind, you know that this is the person that most likely did this, but because of the lack of evidence, it's not a fileable case.
What detectives need is a confession.
The detectives brought Carl back in for questioning and confronted him with what Tyquisha's family said about the alleged abuse.
Any truth to that?
I mean, we could argue some.
But no violence?
I mean, some pushing and shoving, maybe. Her just as much as me, but no.
Carl also insists that things weren't over between them.
We were just taking a break for a little bit.
That's not what her family says.
Well, maybe she didn't tell her family everything.
He also insisted that Tyquisha left the barbershop alive, and that was the last contact that he ever had with her.
Harris was there. He saw her leave.
We know.
He maintains that he has nothing to hide.
He also gives the detectives permission to search his car.
Since she was found several miles from the barbershop, The detectives suspected that Carl may have used his car to move Tyquisha's body.
The search fails to turn up any blood or other evidence. And following up with Carl's co-worker, Harris Finley, is equally fruitless.
He maintains that Tyquisha left the shop alive.
It's very frustrating for detectives.
Unable to make an arrest, the case grows cold.
If you don't have any other leads, then there's nowhere to go.
It is extremely, extremely frustrating, and everybody feels for the family.
It's very hard on families. A lot of times, they don't understand what is really happening.
You feel like it's never going to be solved.
The frustrations only get worse as weeks turn to months and months into years.
It's a very, very challenging time for the family. They're trying to do the best that they can, trying to raise her son and just not having the answers.
However, the case is never officially closed.
You gotta have faith that somebody will find something and someone will be put to justice.
When homicide cases go cold, it can give people time to think. Witnesses, even suspects, lives change, their conscience gets the best of them, and guilt kicks in.
Or they can get caught in a jam and need a little leverage.
Homicide.
In 2019, 13 years after Tyquisha's murder, Long Beach detectives get a call from a neighboring precinct.
They'd arrested a man on other charges, and when they started questioning him, he said that he had information to give them.
The man they had in custody was Carl's friend, Harris Finley.
It's been 13 years since someone shot and killed Tyquisha Myers and dumped her body along a bike path in Long Beach, California. And investigators have never made an arrest.
As long as the suspect is out there running free, the case stays open.
But now, detectives may have finally caught a break when Harris Finley is arrested on an unrelated charge.
13 years earlier, Harris had provided an alibi for Tyquisha's husband, Carl Mays.
Out of the blue, Harris had started talking about Tyquisha's murder.
Harris be like, hey, well, if I tell you this, would it potentially reduce my charges?
When police hear what Harris has to say, they reach out to the Long Beach detectives, who are anxious to talk to Carl's old co-worker.
When a witness comes forward after years of a case being cold, you take that statement.
Harris is booked on other charges while detectives drive over to interview him.
And this time, he has something very different to tell the detectives.
He said that Tyquisha never left the barbershop.
At least not alive.
Carl killed her.
Did you see him do it?
No, but I know he did it.
According to Harris, when Tyquisha stopped by the shop that day, she wasn't happy.
Where's my money, Carl?
I got it. Settle down, all right?
When Tyquisha enters the barbershop, they kind of start arguing a little bit.
He says Carl took Tyquisha into the back room of the barbershop to talk.
Did you happen to hear what they said?
Not really.
However, he says there was no mistaking what he heard next.
You're sure it was a gunshot?
Yeah.
Harris said that Carl came out of the back room a few minutes later.
What happened, man? It was an accident. I didn't mean to do it.
Carl said that he tried to put the gun to her head, kind of to scare her.
He had no intention to take the shot, yet the gun went off.
Should we call the police?
No.
Carl said if anybody comes around asking any questions, you didn't hear anything, you didn't see anything, nothing happened.
Harris admits he'd done what Carl asked.
Why is that?
Because he had just killed someone.
We're talking about a witness that was in fear for his life.
But had that fear bought more than his silence?
You help him move the body?
Nah, man. I had nothing to do with any of that.
Detectives aren't sure if they believe him, but Harris's statement gives them the piece that they've been missing.
The witness statement matches the victim's injuries, matches how it could have happened. It matches the phone data. So everything is tied together.
But after 13 years of silence, can detectives believe him?
Oftentimes, suspects are just making things up, and clearly he has a motive to get out of whatever he was arrested for.
All those years, you could have gone to the police, you could have picked up the phone and made an anonymous tip, and you didn't. And the only time you decide to come up with this statement is when you're looking at potential incarceration.
Whether Harris is telling the truth or not, what to do with his new story isn't the detective's call.
You take that statement, and then as a detective, you give that information to the district attorney, and the DA is the one that has to convince the jury that what the witness is saying is true.
The prosecutors are open to cutting Harris a deal, but they're going to need something in return.
When somebody comes forward with this type of information, they're going to have to go the full length on ensuring that that information is used in the court case, which more than likely will be testifying.
Will his testimony alone be enough to ensure a conviction?
The defense attorney is going to try to discredit your witness.
If the reason he didn't speak 13 years before is because he was afraid for his life, then what changed?
A vulnerability to cross-examination isn't the only weakness in Harris's story either.
That type of information is not the smoking gun in this case. It could help, but it's witness testimony, which tends to be low on the totem pole in terms of evidence.
Luckily, detectives have one more piece of the puzzle.
Back in 2006, the detectives had recovered a blood-stained blanket from the barbershop.
At the time, DNA testing had been unable to determine if the blood was Tyquisha's.
The capabilities of DNA testing have progressed quite a bit over the years.
But will a second round of testing confirm what detectives long suspected?
They ran it, did the test, and they were able to say this blanket had her blood.
That DNA, it actually sealed the case.
"13 years after Tyquisha Myers' murder, police and prosecutors believe they finally have enough evidence to make an arrest.
DNA testing has determined that the blood on the blanket found in Carl's barbershop belongs to Tyquisha.
And it isn't the only thing detectives have to connect Tyquisha's husband, Carl Mays, to her murder.
Carl's co-worker, Harris Finley, said he heard a gunshot after Carl took Tyquisha into the back room of the barbershop.
The witness statement is actually the icing on the cake.
On September 13th, 2019, detectives finally take Carl Mays into custody. But when they get him into the interview room, he still denies having anything to do with Tyquisha's death.
I'm the one that reported her missing. Why would I do that if I killed her?
Harris said you did it.
He heard the gunshot.
The detectives tell him that his former co-worker had changed his story.
He said that he's lying.
And the blood on the blanket? You said it was yours.
And we know that's a lie.
Now backed into a corner, detectives give Carl one more chance to come clean.
Come on, man. Do yourself a favor.
Somebody that's remorseful, or you get somebody that's confessed, that goes a long way.
But Carl is through talking.
No, I need my lawyer.
He asked for a lawyer, effectively ending the interview.
Even without a confession, detectives are able to book Carl on murder charges, and Tyquisha's family rejoices at the news.
It was a lot of crying and releasing of all of the emotion that has been building for those 13 years.
However, for the patrons of Carl's barbershop, the arrest comes as a shock.
When you're going to the barber shop and have a friendly face that you see all the time, you never picture that that person can take a life. And so it must be a scary thing for the community.
And when the case goes to trial, they're still wondering, is Carl a cold-blooded killer?
Once that person steps foot in the courtroom, all eyes are on them.
While Carl looks on from the defense table, the prosecutors lay out the case against him.
Prosecutors have to make sure that, they have enough evidence that the charges that they're presenting are going to stick.
They have the family's allegations of abuse, Tyquisha's phone records that last place her at the barbershop, and they have her blood on the blanket from Carl's storeroom.
They also have a star witness.
Harris Finley takes the stand and testifies that when Tyquisha came by the shop that day, Carl took her into the back room.
He recalls hearing a loud pop in the background and then Carl coming out.
But Tyquisha never came out.
Carl shot and killed her in that back room.
Harris doesn't know exactly why he did it, only that Carl and Tyquisha had been arguing over money.
However, the prosecution believes that money was only part of it.
I need my money, Carl.
If you wanted something from me, you should have stayed.
He could have been holding in some kind of anger or rage.
Until it suddenly and violently came boiling out.
Just give me my money, Carl.
Okay, I'll give you something.
That's when he shot her.
The DNA, the phone records, and Harris's testimony. According to the prosecutors, it all points to Carl as Tyquisha's killer.
Basically, they tied everything together in this neat little bow.
But when it's the defense's turn, Carl's attorney does his best to pull at any loose threads.
As the prosecutors predicted, the defense tried to discredit Harris Finley's testimony.
The defense in this case really focused on that.
May's attorney brought up how convenient it was for this guy who was facing charges for something unrelated to now bring up this murder 13 years later.
All the while, according to the defense, Tyquisha's real killer walked free.
What May's attorney was essentially trying to argue was that police dropped the ball again and again. They weren't diligent enough to go and find who actually did this.
When the case goes to the jury, they find Carl guilty of second-degree murder.
The reason you get second degree instead of first degree is because they just couldn't prove intent.
It might have been an intentional killing, but it might have been more in the heat of the moment.
The DA's office works off of the evidence that they can prove in court, and we're lucky they didn't get just manslaughter.
When it comes time for sentencing, the family argues in favor of the maximum sentence.
It's one thing for a crime to be a heat in the moment and you have immediate remorse, but it's another thing to not come forth and be honest about it. So there's a significant amount more of malicious intent.
And Tyquisha's mother had some harsh words for her daughter's killer.
Her mom pointed out that she wasn't gonna forgive him. He took her baby away from her, and that each year that he spends in jail, she hopes that haunts him.
But it's Tyquisha's own words that have the most impact.
Her sister took to the stand and read from the letter Tyquisha wrote to Carl prior to her death.
It was essentially describing in detail why she couldn't bear to continue the relationship with Mays and why she wanted this new life, this new start.
Carl appears unmoved by Tyquisha's words.
When the family was speaking, I don't think Carl really ever showed any remorse.
However, When the judge hands down his sentence, it appears that the family's passionate plea did have an impact.
He gives Carl the maximum sentence, 41 years to life.
Which means he'll be in his late 60s, early 70s, or even in his 80s before he comes up for parole. That's if he survives prison.
When the sentencing was handed down, it's finally over. It's been a long time coming, so there's a sense of relief.
The family also feels a sense of gratitude.
It's sad for the families to have to wait, but as long as that case is solved, then hopefully it gives the family some closure.
But even if Tyquisha finally has justice, her family still grieves her loss.
Her family and her friends have to live knowing that their loved one, their daughter, their sister, their friend, their mom, didn't get to be there with them, sharing the most precious moments of their lives.